Like a son of Zeus by Semele, Dionysus was worshipped in places like Thebes and Anatolia. However, in the classical period, worship was not uniform. Some of these places are public and organized, while other rituals are mysterious and carried out in secret. In Rome he was known as Bacchus, honored with wild rituals performed in forests and mountains at night. He is now honored in Greece with festivals with elements of wine and art. Every March, the city of Athens hosts a festival known as the Great Dionysian. As early as the 6th century BC, this festival lasted for 6 days. On the first day, a procession opens the festival as a statue of Dionysus is brought into the theater. Then followed the ox sacrifice and feast. In the days that followed, ancient Greek playwrights presented their works, ranging from tragedies to comedies to satirical plays. They all compete for public prizes. Actors who look good are also rewarded. The winners were awarded crowns of ivy, which symbolized respect for the patron god of wine. Dionysus was also worshipped through a series of secret rituals now known as the Dionysian mysteries. Many scholars of ancient Greek civilization and mythology argue that its development from an unknown cult and its spread throughout the Mediterranean coincided with the spread of wine. Moreover, at first glance the orgies and mysterious rites performed by Dionysus are seen as harmonious and orderly, in contrast to classical Greek religion. Many scholars believe this tribute does not mean that Dionysus was really a Greek god, especially given the Germanic tradition. They considered Dionysus to be a foreign god, and rejected the possibility that the myths surrounding his death and resurrection had Greek origins. When National Geographic began in the 18th century, positivist scholars argued that Dionysus was a god imported from outside Greece. However, the discovery of an ancient Mycenaean tablet at the palace of Pylos in southern Greece does bear his name. These records prove that Dionysus was not a god adopted from outside Greece, but arose from the beliefs of people who probably died in the 13th century BC. Initially, 19th-century positivist scholars also thought that the Maenades, women who followed Dionysus, existed only in myth and literature. But written evidence from various ages reveals its existence. These Maenades show their respect by getting drunk, tearing animals alive and eating their raw flesh. The story begins when Dionysus visits King Pantheus, his cousin, in Thebes, his homeland. Since the king would not worship him, the women of Thebes held ceremonies in his honor. Unfortunately, Pantheus knew how to spy on them, so even his own mother Agave tore him to pieces with her bare hands. So Dionysus is a pure Greek god, whose popularity spans multiple eras and personalities, wrote David Hernández de la Fuente, professor of the Faculty of Classics at the Complutense University of Madrid, wrote in National Geographic. Dionysus is described as a beautiful young woman with long hair, and a stout bearded man. It is known that Roman mythology borrowed from Greek, including Dionysus. However, there is a difference between the two. Dionysus is shown as a noble child, a young man, and is usually present with the 12 Olympian gods and goddesses. Bacchus, on the other hand, is old and fat, sometimes vindictive, and uses wand magic against those who oppose his cult, and his desire for freedom. De la Fuente adds that the belief systems of the ancient Mediterranean world were also influenced by the traditions of Dionysus. For example, the Egyptian god Osiris, who was described by the Greek historian Herodotus in the 5th century BC. Chr. Often equated with Dionysus. Scholars have also noted the connection between the life-giving wine of the cult of Dionysus and the centrality of wine in the sacrament of the Eucharist in Christianity, as well as the parallels between the Greek gods and Christ himself, explains de la Fuente. 20th-century thinkers such as James Frazer saw Dionysus and Christ in the context of the Eastern Mediterranean tradition of the death and resurrection of gods whose sacrifice and resurrection redeemed their people.